Why do you think people get married?
It's a plethora of reasons of the why.
Financial gain.
Sex without conviction.
Religion.
Why do you think people don't get married?
People are not even equally yoked coming into something.
Commitment issues.
Children. You know, people want their kids to be first, so can't get married because
Welcome to Date Night with Coach. We're back at it again, Dwayne, Ebony Green. And guess what, y'all? We got our favorite people back. They came back. I stalked them a little bit, but they back, y'all. We got Jermaine and Sharika back with us tonight. And we got a great topic for everybody, and we're going to talk about some things. And part of what we want to talk about stems from one of our core concepts. What is your why? And to take it a little further, understanding and evolving with your why. And we got a big why question today, and we'll start with, I'll just kind of throw it out there just to kind of get some input from you guys. Why do you think people get married?
The wrong reasons. Honestly.
financial gain.
Sex.
You right, man.
Sex without conviction.
God bless this thing, huh?
Oh my God.
Social acceptance.
That's a good one.
And so with that, we'll start there. We'll start with why people get married. And so what I'll do is I'll kind of, I guess the topic or the theme that I want us to kind of think about with this whole concept is something you hear people say oftentimes when justifying or debating why not to be married, right? You know, marriage is just a piece of paper. In the United States, marriage has declined 60% since the 70s. And the age of, and they say first marriages, has increased. And again, so what that says is less people are getting married, and those that do are waiting longer before they get married.
Yeah.
Right? So that's kind of one of the stats. So why people get married? Brides Magazine said companionship, affirmation of mutual love to start a family, financial benefit, medical insurance, and then my favorite, Psychology Today, of course, love, companionship and security, children, you said social norms, and religion. So those are some of the reasons why people
And
get
she
married.
said sex without conviction.
Yeah. Yeah.
Religion.
So with that, right? what are some of the reasons generally why you think people don't get married?
Commitment issues.
Don't you?
Children.
Kids chase them away.
Or they, you know, people want their kids to be first, so can't get married because my children are first.
Oh, there you go. There people do have that perspective.
Instances of unfaithfulness or lack of trust. Quiet today.
Okay.
I know. I was about to say, what's up over
No.
You thinking? I see the wheels turning. The wheels turning.
The wheels are definitely
So
turning.
again, Psychology Today, same article. It says personal freedom, compatibility, relationship problems, societal expectations. That's the flip, because one of them was societal norms and then expectations. That's interesting, and financial considerations. That's an interesting one, and
That ain't interesting.
that's
at
gonna
all.
come back. I
That
mean,
is
just in
very
terms
plain.
of kind of how people are.
I
the
got money
mindset-
and I don't want to share it.
Right, the mindset of people these days.
Yeah.
Right,
You're
pretty
not
much.
getting half of this.
And so core, there was a study, they said putting self first, career focus, dating for fun, and trust issues. So those are some of the reasons why people don't get married. And I'm sure in our 40 some years all being on this earth, we You know.
No.
Took a minute to hear
Yeah,
that.
Yeah, I said that.
I thought he was like combined, but then I'm like, no.
Yeah,
Not yet.
Yeah, it's coming, baby.
Yeah.
So, in our experiences, I'm sure we've, people that we know, and our families, friends, we hear people, talk about, or we see people experience and go through things where they decide not to be married, right? And then some people get married, some people fail. But what are you guys seeing and hearing from folks in your lives, or just, that you may have encountered as to why they're getting married or why they're not getting married? What are you hearing? What is the consensus?
So I think when it comes to why people get married, it's a plethora of reasons of the why, right? But I think for many, it's because of what society suggests and culturally what we're reared in to believe that it's these natural progressions, if you will, that we take in life where, you grow up, you go through school, and then once you go through school or you find a job, then, the next progression after that is normally I get married, then I start a family, that whole type of thing. How many of us have actually abided by that particular norm of society, and even what a lot of our faith-based belief system even would suggest, right? But I think that one of the things that a lot of people want in life is successful relationships, right? And I think that where the challenge comes in for a lot of different people is that they don't necessarily understand exactly what it means.
I was just about to
to
say
be
that
married.
because you can't have success without accountability.
Right.
So what exactly is success?
Right.
Because everybody want all the fun stuff, right? The
Right.
money,
Yeah.
the sex.
Right.
Right.
But what happens when your partner say you can't spend that money today?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Then it ain't so fun.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I think lots of times people measure marriage from the external, right? And even you have to be very careful, even with that, because you can have some people that wear masks very well, and
Very
they've mastered
well.
it. At this point where my observation externally says it looks like it's successful, it looks like it's fun, it looks like it really doesn't even take a lot of work, but at the same time, one of the biggest challenges that I think that you face when you're embarking, whether or not I choose to be married, is really, who am I? Am I really acquainted with who I am? Because at this point, if I sign up for marriage, I'm saying that I'm confident in who I am, and I accept you for who you are, even in the state that you're currently in, right? Not knowing the unknown of marriage is you never know what it's going to evolve into, right? We hear about the vows to death do us part, all of that in sickness and in health, right? And I think lots of times that in the moment, that's rhetoric that we're just reciting at the moment, right? But if those things do absolutely come into play, that's when those vows, that's when your emotions, that's when the commitment all comes into question at that point. And am I willing to really deal with what comes with those changes? And I'm willing to stay in what I said that I was going to stay in despite what may transpire. But I think, the challenge of marriage is it's easy for you to get to a place of saying, yeah, I'm tired of this. I think I've had enough. I've got a taste of this. But it's not the taste that's going to be the most fulfilling thing in the marriage. In the marriage, it's about the journey. And it's about what can we overcome in order for us to be able to continue the journey to help other people out with our truth to say, like, listen, we may make it look easy, but at the end of the day, you don't really know what transpires behind these doors when they're closed, right? But a lot of our families have reared us to the point where you're never supposed to let somebody know when it's trouble in the land, in the marriage. You're never supposed to wear it. You're never supposed to speak about it. You're never supposed to speak negatively about your spouse, that whole type of thing, right? But at the same time, how do you do that if you're not getting the proper resources in order for you to be able to prohibit those things from happening? But lots of times with us growing up, we didn't hear about no marital counseling when we were growing up. You know, it's like if things weren't working out at the house, y'all may have not even been sleeping in the same bed.
Right.
But at the end of the day, we were still making it work.
Right.
But some of us aren't even willing nowadays, especially people our age, they're not even willing to take us sleeping in separate rooms for a while. They're just like, let me plan my way of escaping and get my apartment or get another house and do what I need to do.
Well, to piggyback off of that, I think, people are not even equally yoked coming into something. Because if you're coming into something and your value system and your belief system are polar opposites and you think something's going to change,
Right.
you are doomed for an unsuccessful ride, right?
Yeah.
You can only ride that journey with somebody that you truly like, somebody that you value and you see, because shit's going to happen regardless.
Right.
But what's happening, what I think, is people are making, the people who are getting married, you making something that shouldn't even be.
Right.
Like, you're forcing it. It ain't organic. Like, so when you talk about, I don't want you to know what we going through, because you don't want to be that know-how. Because I feel like when you're authentic in the process, you are authentic about the process.
Yes.
Because saying this nigga made me sick today, you know your heart and you know you still love this man and he still loves you and vice versa. But, like, what the fuck are people doing? I don't know.
Nope.
So, interestingly enough, my thought is when you talked about, Sharika said it in the article, said it, the social norms, right, the social expectations. I believe that people get married and people don't get married because of the social norms and the social expectations. And so, the whole idea or the whole thought or that whole, I guess, statement that marriage is just a piece of paper is for the person who doesn't want to get married, for the person who isn't being pursued to get married, for the person who is in a relationship that is dead end. That is a justification or a way to be comfortable and be okay with where I'm at. And so, again, all driven by societal acceptance. Because if I'm around married folks and I'm not married, I got to justify that. Like we do with everything. But unfortunately, she said it, people force relationships. And oftentimes when we force relationships, we force ourselves to live in a way that's is doomed, right? And so if we stay, the idea of oftentimes when we force it, we'll force ourselves to stay, right? Because now the societal norm says that, especially when it comes to religion and things like that, I'm married, I got to stay married.
Right.
Old school, right? We don't like each other. This thing is pretty much over. But the outside world going to see homeostasis and bliss. But when we close these doors, you go in that room, I go in this room.
Miserable, yeah.
You know what I mean?
But I don't even think just you worried about what the society says, because when you with somebody that you ain't want to be with and you know that it's wrong, now you can't admit your own failure. You can't now present the world and say, I thought this was my person and this is no longer my person. So you're willing to just live miserably in order to prove to yourself that you aren't, you didn't fail in the relationship.
So let's talk about personal freedom. If anybody got any thoughts on that, as one of the reasons why people don't get married. People don't want to answer to nobody.
And I think that's a big one, right? The whole personal freedom bit. When it comes to personal freedom,
Excuse me.
are you doing it? Are you using it as a personal control mechanism?
I like that.
I do like
I like that.
Or are you not just willing to be fluid and adjust, right? Because to me, you cannot be a selfish individual and think that you're ever going to be successful in marriage. Because marriage is the epitome of remaining in a posture where you're always willing to adjust. And the kicker with the adjustment is you have to even be willing to make the adjustment when it's not even comfortable.
Yeah.
When it's
Especially
not
when it's not
convenient.
comfortable. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, when I became married, I understood at that point, it's not just solely about my own desires, but it's about what I say, it's about what I do, and how that affects the other person that I said yes to. And I think for many people, they look at marriage as a form of control. And they feel like that it is a percentage of their freedom that they're freely giving away, because now I'm allowing someone else to have some type of influence over decisions that I would make by myself and not care about the repercussions of whatever my decision making is at the time. But when I have someone else that holds me accountable and makes me look at another viewpoint outside of my own, then it challenges me, one, to not just be able to operate in my own comfort zone, but I have to then look at how am I going to affect my spouse, my kids, family members, loved ones, based off of decisions that I now need to make with someone else. And sometimes we don't have the same perspective when it comes to marriage, right? Like, I may be someone that may be impulsive and just want to make a decision right in the moment, where she may be the individual to say, babe, let's go home, kind of talk about this, think this over a little bit, before you make that decision for us.
That's our life.
Right? So
He's speaking to you.
what has to take place then is what can become awkward as a man, and this is when I really knew, but I accepted it, but I knew I had to grow up in marriage, right? Is that it feels awkward with saying, babe, what do you think about this? Or what do you think about this, right? And growing older, like, I'm even consulting her, which anybody that knows me and knows me well, is they would tell you just off the break, like, Jermaine doing what? I even will consult her about retail therapy. I'll sit in the bed and scroll and be like,
that
look,
stresses me out.
look,
I'm
look.
like, make a decision.
Where I would normally easily pull the trigger and the box will just be showing up to the house, right? And she'd be like, babe, what's that? And then I would just say what it is.
Baby talking to you.
But now I'm at a place where I have a self-conviction, right? Where I'm like, even though I can be a bargain shopper and I find a lot of things at good deals, is that money that I could be using another type of way that just wouldn't affect me, but it affects the family, or it may just affect her, So that's where I had to realize, like, I feel weak in the moment with even doing the consulting.
Strength, though.
But at the same time, this woman just says it's a mess. I'm just paying her a compliment.
No, I'm just saying,
No,
for you
but-
say you feel weak, you
but-
should not feel that way.
Okay.
And so, one of the concepts that we dealt with in our one of our date night groups is identity, right? That individual identity that you have especially as it said in the stat, people get married later, right? So if you get married later in life, you've probably established a life, you probably have a career, you may have kids, whatever the case may be, right? And then when you come into a relationship, who you are as a 30-something, possibly 40-something, possibly person getting married, now you got to redefine that. And so one of the struggles is we often go into relationships with the idea that this is what I see as this being, right? I have a plan for what my marriage and my relationship is going to be. And who I marry is just going to fit into my plan. You know what I mean? And so what happens is when we go in with that individual mindset based off of our individual lives and lived experiences, it's a struggle to now submit to the process and be vulnerable and, like you said, consult, because that's what it's about. So you have to kind of get to a place where, one, you have a level of confidence in who you've become, right, and who you are, and making a decision to consult, making a decision to, you know, be selfless in the relationship is, at the onset, of course, those people who say marriage is just a piece of paper, they'll say it's weakness, but that's strength. There's strength in the vulnerability, right? But the problem is if you're vulnerable to the wrong person,
But here's
you
the
might
thing.
be.
And anybody who have lived single, there's some accountability that you technically possess for every relationship, right? So it's all a scapegoat, because I believe that sometimes people put this crap in their head because nobody wants to marry you. It ain't even on the table. So you got all this crap, you know, real shit. You can be with somebody who's never going to marry you, and you've convinced yourself that it's the accountability and now it's my decision. No, even in a long-term relationship, there's accountability. Even in a friendship, there's accountability in everything that we practice and do in our lives. So to say now when it comes to marriage, I can't give accountability, that's kind of stupid to me.
Well, to me, I think that some people have false accountability
Oh,
as well,
that part.
right? Because you have people out here
That part.
that are in relationships just strictly for companionship because they're scared to be alone.
Okay.
So they take it for what they
So
get.
they really do want to be married. Because if you're scared to be alone, then you should want to be
Well,
married. 'Cause they
on the flip side, right, with the scared to be alone, lots of times the scared to be alone is because the individual has a problem with facing really who they are.
So they're
Right?
trying to be with somebody to cover
So they're
something
trying to
up.
be with someone else to hide behind that individual and just to say, well, at least somebody wants me. Which can then lead to, because it's a lot of males out here, females as well, right? That can be sniffed out. And when that's sniffed out, that's when you've been living in the same house with Boo Boo for 25 years.
Right.
And Boo Boo still hasn't asked you
Right.
to be his wife. Well, the reason why he hasn't asked you to be his wife is because he's been settling just as much as you have. But out of convenience, we've now grown to a point where financially it's easier for us to do life this way. But at the end of the day, am I really experiencing life for what it truly is? Or have I dumbed it down to the point where I'm afraid to address me? So I'd rather stay in something that's never for me, but it's convenient enough for me to feel like that I'm still progressing in life, even though I'm really a slave in my own quarter.
I like that.
I like that.
I like that. So what about the whole idea of, and these kind of points, so financial consideration, putting self first, career focus, those kind of, and I'm gonna throw societal expectations in there with that, because you know society is career driven at this point. You know, everybody, individual, everybody get the bag, everybody, you know, the strong woman, you know, women empowerment movement that essentially has put women against men, so to speak. So it makes it hard to be a team because everybody wants to be the quarterback. Who I'm gonna throw the ball to?
Right.
You know what I mean? If we both the quarterback. So when you think about those concepts. I got something I want to share, but I want to let y'all kind of speak
Can
on.
quarterbacks catch?
They can if they need to, maybe.
So why can't two quarterbacks throw to each other? It's like I'm joking. It's just you.
Right, challenge it. That's right.
I'm just saying, like,
Quarterback make him catch, right? And guess what? Two quarterbacks can't be on the field at the same time. So even though you can catch and I can catch and you can throw and I can
two
throw,
quarterbacks.
hold on.
Oh no!
In
I was
order-
say opposing team, but
In
no.
order for us to run a play, one of us got to play one position and one got to play the other.
Yeah.
So even if you have the ability to do something, sometimes you got to defer.
Yeah.
Because it ain't your time to do that.
Yep.
And it don't necessarily mean the other person is better either. That's just for what you got, what you need in that situation,
Right.
in that moment. So, all right, QB.
No, I was just saying. I mean, I'm saying this for the people. I mean, I don't need to.
No, but what you said has a lot
the
of
running back
validity
get
to
all
it, right?
the hype because they go moving. You know, the running back get hit.
Running
So
back-
Dwayne
running
knows
back
this
is
as a
obsolete.
football player. At the end of the day, it is an instance where two quarterbacks can be on the field at the same time on offense, right? But they never will play the same primary position at the same time. Which means I can line up as a receiver, but I am really a quarterback. But at that time, I'm not a quarterback. I'm a wide receiver.
Because that's not why the
But
team needed me in that moment, right?
but a ball can be thrown to me, and if I'm still behind the line of scrimmage and it's thrown to me,
Bless you.
I don't know if we want to cut that out.
I still have the ability to operate at that point
Yeah.
as a quarterback. But initially, that wasn't the position that I took on the field at first, right? So what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that we both may have the same type of skill set to operate in one position, but that does not necessarily mean that we need to play the same position at the same time. We may have to line up as something different
That was just for the people.
in the process. But,
Like, coming at
That was for the
no, and I'm not responding
No, I'm
in
just-
that fashion to you.
No,
But
I
what
get
I
it.
will say is this: a lot of marriages have unwanted tension because we have people that want to play the same position.
Guess what, bro? And again, you know, you did that last time. You said something, right? And it was lined right up with the next topic. We going back to relationship killers next time, and competition is going to be is the
Oh
topic.
man. Okay.
So you just said that, right?
Good.
So here's something that in one of our couples groups we talked about defining marriage, right? And so we allowed each couple to we had three concepts: marriage as a team, marriage as a covenant, marriage as a business. And so, the covenant is that agreement, that commitment, right? The business is the operations, right? And then the team is our sacrifice, kind of working together. And thinking about that and thinking about these concepts, financial considerations, putting self first, career focus, people are living in a place where they understand the need for the commitment. They understand the need for the legal component of being in a marriage, of making it legal, so to speak, right? But everything that has been said makes sense because career focus. There's a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners out here. There are certain benefits that you don't get if your business isn't registered and legitimate.
Yep.
There are certain benefits.
You don't get anything.
Hold on. There are certain benefits that you don't get if your relationship isn't registered and legitimate.
Right. Yep.
And so people understand I got to go pay my, pay the state and file my LLC because they want their business legit, because they want their tax breaks, because they want to do certain things in that realm for the business side, right? So they understand.
Some people don't do that because they don't want the accountability of the registration.
That's true. But they miss out on some of the benefits.
Yeah.
Right? And so you can't tell me that marriage is just a piece of paper.
Right. Right.
But your hair salon ain't just a piece of paper.
Right.
Your auto body shop ain't just a piece of paper. You know what I mean? And so your business ain't just a piece of paper.
Right. Yeah.
And so
Marriage is a piece of paper, but marriage is a mindset. Marriage is a mindset. You are a wife well before you even become one.
I'm glad
It
you
is a mindset.
and so that's where we were going next.
No.
So no, you good. So the conversation, I want to hear from everybody about why marriage. And then on top of that, when you look at your partner, why you?
That's good.
Why marriage?
You should have gave me no.
Well, you doing just fine.
Babe, I try to talk to you about the topic, and you be like, nah, I'm good. You be wanting to be a renegade.
I think marriage is a beautiful union, man. I honestly believe that it's a beautiful union. I believe as well that from a spiritual perspective, it has to be something that you've been called to.
Come
I
on, you
think
man, dropping
from-
them jewels.
Everybody.
I think from a natural perspective, it can be a trial and error type of situation.
Don't look at me.
Right? and I think
Flip the
that
corn.
when it becomes trial and error, I think it's so easy for you to exit once you've become overwhelmed
Yeah.
with things that you believe cannot be repaired or things that you just aren't willing to adjust. Why did I get married? We were having this conversation. I was dropping some information on her that I was ignorant to the fact that I never shared with her, right? So I was like, Lord, I'm glad I shared this with you on the way here. Instead of you looking at me like, what? For me, it was a cultural thing. And what I mean by a cultural thing, I set my expectation of marriage from what my mother shared with me as her experience, right? So my mother waited until she was 37 to get married, right? So in my mind, anybody that knows me knows that I'm a mama's boy. I have no problems with admitting that, right? My mother and I have a very close relationship. I said to myself, my standard was going to be, if I was not married by 37, I wasn't doing it. And the reason being was because I felt like at that point, I've probably lived half of my life at this point. And if God had not directed me to the right individual at that point, I would be okay.
I'm good.
I'm good, right? But spiritually, what I ended up discovering is even things that God has preordained for me to have in my life, some of those things weren't going to be released to me until I found that good things, right?
Bro,
And
I'm telling you.
it was a couple different things that prompted me to become more aware of, one, my perspective, and then my current posture. So in 2011, my then significant other was diagnosed with breast cancer. Oh, that was a major wake-up call. Why was that a major wake-up call for me? Because at the time, Was my wheels turning about marriage? Maybe a little. You know. But at the same time, it was a clarion call for me. Because I clearly heard the Lord saying, like, I can send this situation either way. I can have you stay around and see her demise, or I can have you stay around and watch my healing virtue take place. But what's going to be your decision? Either way. What are you going to do now? What's your mindset going to be now? I said, ooh, okay. So the first thing I'm thinking is, you know, just like anybody else. When you hit cancer, the first thing you think about is death, right? But because of her faith, through the initial stages of the diagnosis, I said, oh. So here I am thinking that I've been operating in this spiritual realm for quite some time. And even in that moment, I felt like I was more mature than her, right? Just because of time and my involvement in ministry. All to discover, no, my immaturity of faith was highlighted, right? So moving on, now she's pregnant. From my belief system, this is out of the timing of God because we're not married, right? So here I am again at a place of being caught flat-footed in this whole fornication bit again, right? Like, you hear people say when you know about it, you do about it. I knew about it, just didn't follow through with it, right? So I'm like, okay, now my childhood starts to come back in my head. I've already done this one time. I'm not willing to repeat this same thing again and go through any type of drama with anybody that I made the decision to have a child with and to take a part of the action, right? God showed me again. You don't have to do it. You can keep rolling. But what I got inside of you, you can't do it alone.
There you go.
So I'm like, all right. And at that point, when you know that you got something in you that you're not just going to be able to cultivate yourself, it would behoove you.
Bro, I'm trying to tell you.
To find that good thing that you know that can make the difference in who God has ultimately called and created you to be.
Yep.
So at this point, I'm like, well, all right, I got it. You know, the message is very clear. So I wait till I'm 37. And I did it.
Yeah.
Wait.
Right?
So you got married at 37?
Yeah.
Wow.
Shut the front door.
Yep.
So I waited until I was 37 to do it. But one thing that I can tell you is, one, we did it in such a non-traditional way, right? Two, who was there needed to be there to witness it. And three, even when I doubted myself, and I even doubted us, and she probably even doubted us at some point within the span of how long we've been married at this point, I now can sit back with confidence and say, if I had to do it all over again, not only would I do it all over again, but I would have no problem
Doing the same.
with waiting the time that I waited to know this is a good time for you to do this. It's not going to be as smooth as you think it is because you waited so long. But what I can tell you is you've already created almost an unbreakable foundation because you had every reason and opportunity to walk away.
Yeah.
But why didn't you? So I say to people who question whether or not is marriage really what I want to do, who are you without the person that you feel like you've been called to marriage in? Can I survive mentally, emotionally, and spiritually without that person in my life? And if your answer is no, I can't, it's a good probability.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
And you know, I'm hearing that, and what I'm hearing is there are a lot of people who are probably terrified to even give another person that much, I ain't gonna say power, but I'm gonna say credit, right? I'm gonna say to be vulnerable enough to acknowledge that this person is that significant to my world, right? So I'm gonna let you go ahead and
No, Jermaine, he says things so fluently and fluently and deep. It makes you not even want to respond.
Right,
but,
he should go last.
Right. I think for me though, well, I originally wanted to get married early on, like in my 20s. I thought I was ready. But I'm glad we waited until we did, because for me at that time, I think I actually wanted accountability. I wanted someone that I can call and ask questions. Is this okay? And push me and, you know, all of that. Keep me in line and tell me when I'm wrong and build me up when I'm right. You know, all of that. So for me, I absolutely wanted accountability at 35, because that's what age I was when he actually proposed. And I chose him, or I responded to his decision for me, because he was always a person for me. I know we've talked about our relationship before, and our spirits connect when I first met him. And as he continued to evolve into a man, a spiritual man, it was further verified that yes, this is the man that I'm supposed to be with, because he gives me what I need spiritually. He's someone I can trust as the head of my household. Yeah, he's a good dude. He's a good dude.
That's relative.
Yeah.
It's like I'm just, you know, I gotta mess with her.
Everything.
He's a good dude, even with all of the things we can deem as faults.
Good is
all the
relative.
chagrin. He's someone I've always been able to recover with and be okay.